Mr. Ivan, and today we're going to be talking about the law of momentum, right? The big Mo. Now, one of my favorite books is John Maxwell's book on the 21 Laws of Leadership. And on chapter 27, he talks about the big Mo. Now, in the big Mo, there's a train analogy that I love. Here we have cargo trains. Back in the day, there was steam trains, a whole bunch of different trains all around here. Now, when you see a cargo train, you usually see them going fast. But at some point, that train has a stop. The train will stop, and at that point, when it stops, it takes a while for it to start up. But after it gets started, it's almost like it's nothing going through. If you stop on the train track and the train is coming by at 60 miles an hour, it will take out your car like it's nothing. It'll go through and it'll just keep going. It might need an extra paint job, maybe some body work, but that's about it. In your car, you have to get a new one. You can't repair that. Now, one time I saw this YouTube video of an 18-wheeler stopped on the track with a trailer, and the train came by and it just took that trailer off. The trailer ripped off the hinges and it was in pieces. On YouTube video, Mr. Beast, he did this one video. He had 4 brick walls lined up and he had a train trying to go through, and they made a bet on if it would go through or not. Now, the train only got up to 60 miles an hour. It had to start up. It took a while to start up, but after it did, it blew through them. It can go straight through a brick wall, almost like it's nothing. And they also did another one with a steel wall, and when they did the steel wall, same thing. Now, they lowered the momentum, they lowered the speed all the way down to 30 miles an hour, and they did the same thing. And it was able to go through maybe one. And at that point, it stopped. Now, if you take those walls and you change the name to obstacles, that's part of the analogy. Those are obstacles. When you get moving, you can fly by obstacles like it's nothing. If you slow down, those obstacles get in the way, it might stop you.
Momentum has to begin. You heard Mr. Witt talk about a train that's in motion carries a great deal of momentum with it. When it slows down and stops, it takes a lot to get that movement to happen. I found it to be the case in my own life as well. First time that I ran for public office, I didn't know what I was doing. I had spent very little time speaking in front of just one-to-one or crowds of people, and I was learning as I went. And I lost my first election bid. I lost by 27 votes. Why do I remember that it's 27? Because I'll never forget that it was 27. It was all that separated me from that goal. And when I went home after the polls closed and I told my wife the results, she said, "Well, thank goodness you got that out of your system." And I said, "No, I only need 27 more. I'm running next year. I'll find the 27. The only reason I felt that way was because I moved myself into a position of action, began to work at something that I wasn't particularly good at or prepared for. But when I lost the momentum that was already here and here, pushed me forward to the following year, and I won by a very large margin, far more than 27 votes. Also relating to times in my life where I've failed at things, not just at an election, in school. When I first went to university at the age of 18, I was just thrilled to be finished with high school. I wasn't particularly interested in getting a college education. And after the first year, it showed. And the university said, "Well, Mr. Carpenter, why don't you come back someday down the road when you're serious about your education?" And my parents said, "Listen, it looks like you had a really fun time your first year of college. And you have 60 days and you're cut off. And you'll support yourself." So that was a little bit of forced momentum. I'm going to share a word with you as I wrap up here in just a few minutes that I said to myself when it was time for me to go back to university. And whether you say it to yourself here, or you say it aloud, or you yell it at the top of your lungs like I'm going to do, and I'll let you know before I do it so I don't startle you, or you write it down on a piece of paper, it's an exceptionally powerful word. As you study here, Mr. Witt, Master Myers, they teach you when you're getting at something, you use your voice. You do. Yeah. Voice is a very powerful thing, and it has a palpable effect on what you think here and what you feel here. I'll share that word with you in a few minutes. I'm a student of history as well, and one of my favorite things to study is the time of the forming of the United States from the several colonies. And if you read through the Declaration, past the parts in the beginning that we know, but where the writers talk about their grievances with the king, he has done this and so, and he has done this and so. It's a long list. And I think if we distill down all of that commentary, the word that I'm going to yell in a few minutes might fit each one. I think the word that I'm going to share with you, many people at that time were thinking in their head, or felt it in their hearts, or put it down on a piece of paper. And it's happened again and again in the history of our country, and happens to each one of us at different times in our lives. It's a decision point that we come to that we're going to make a change. We're going to start, as Mr. Witt said, to move the train, to get a momentum going towards something that we want to accomplish, something we want to do, something we want to achieve, something we want to help someone else achieve, something we want to achieve as a group or a family or spouse or student. I'm going to yell as loudly as I can for its effect. I've used it many, many times in my life. I believe that when you utter this word, saying it, thinking it, feeling it, or writing it down on a piece of paper, has an extraordinarily powerful effect. So here we go. Enough! Or even if it's just enough. Enough. That word starts a momentum. Here, or both. It's at a point where you said, now is when I make the change. I'm not getting a C next semester, I'm getting a B. I'm not going to complain when mom asks me to take the trash out anymore. I'm just going to do it. I'm going to go find a different job as a space manager. I'm going to go a different direction because I can see at the end of that direction isn't where I want to go. Enough. It's a powerful word related to momentum. Action versus indecision. Enough is an action word. Up from enough comes the momentum that can carry you anywhere you want to go. The loss by 27 votes wasn't my first loss. I went back to university. I graduated with honors. I went to graduate school afterward and graduated with honors because at some points in my life I had said, enough. There were times I was working so much and not spending time with my sons, with my wife in the manner that I probably should have, and I said, enough. It's a great way to build momentum. It's a great way to make positive changes in your life or in anything that you're wanting to accomplish. And with that, my time, I've taken enough of your time. But I want to say thank you again for allowing me to join you today.
An automobile, everybody rides in a car, right? I don't know if you know this, but the average car, if you're going to go from 0 to 60, it takes a lot of horsepower to overcome inertia. Inertia means things that stay the same. If they're sitting still, they stay still. or if they're in motion, they stay in motion. But things affect that, right? It takes a lot of horsepower to get that car from 0 to 60, but once you're on a flat level road and you're driving 60 miles per hour down the road, it only takes 18 horsepower to keep it going at 60. Just enough to overcome wind resistance and drivetrain resistance, right? Now, what does that got to do with? That's kind of like the train analogy that he was using before. But you want to go somewhere. You want to go places. You want to do things. Well, the issue is you can use momentum to take you there, but you got to get it started. You got to get it going, like you had said before, right? A lot of times when we talk about these type of things, people like, oh, that sounds great. We understand what you're saying, the principles, but how does that relate to my life? I mean, what does that look like in the real world, like in my life? Well, I'm going to tell you a story, and I'm going to relate it to that so you can see what I'm talking about. In year 2000, I had the state of Texas come to my school and tell me that I was running an illegal daycare because I taught kids. No, I'm a martial arts school. No, you're running a daycare. No, I'm a martial arts school. So obviously we had a difference of opinion there, right? Well, the state is like a 900-pound gorilla with unlimited resources. And when they told me this, the lady, the enforcement officer that came out told me straight up, I want you to go to this seminar and you're going to learn what you got to do to become licensed to be legal. Well, I didn't know. Inertia, sitting still. I didn't know. So I went to find out. The other day I went to her and I said, I've been here all day long and I hadn't heard anything that had anything to do with what we do. She said, well, what do you do? And I told her. She goes, well, you're exempt. Oh, okay, I thought so. So I went back to my school and I'm teaching you guys. I'm teaching students. We do what we do, right? Well, 2 months later, that enforcement officer showed up at my door, mad as she could be, because I was ignoring her. I explained to her, oh, I'm doing exactly what the state told me to do. They said, I'm exempt. She says, I don't care what that lady said. You're not exempt, and you're going to do what I say. She threatened me. She told me that she was going to bring officers in. She's going to chain and padlock my door and post a deputy sheriff, and if I tried to come in the door, she was going to have me thrown in jail. I fought him for 5 years. Till in 2005, I had caused so many problems for them that they just said, you know what, we're going to give you an exemption, go away, leave us alone. Okay, well that was great for me, but the problem was I saw a bigger picture here, my goal. And what was happening is so many of my friends that ran martial arts school were getting attacked too. When they gave me that exemption, that's where they messed up, because now they set a precedent. And I used that to attack them even harder. See, you got that car moving down at 60 miles per hour. I ain't 18 horsepower to keep it going. But I don't want to go 60. It takes a long time to get somewhere. I want to go faster. So I had to put more effort behind it. I started talking to martial arts school owners, trying to get them, and a lot of times the martial arts school owners were scared. They didn't want the state coming after them, because the state wasn't playing. They were serious. Well, I reached out to different things. Nobody would stand up with me, but I still kept fighting, overcoming resistance. So I started going up. Now, we talk about that car traveling down the road, and we're going to go faster and faster, but obstacles come in the way. And if you hit those obstacles, like Mr. Eisen was talking about, those trains going slower and slower, hit those obstacles will stop you. A lot of other martial arts instructors tried to fight the state and got crushed. Well, I set about seeing the obstacles and moving them out of the way before I got to them. I worked for 80 hours a week for 9 months, visiting and talking and getting into roadblocks, and the stories I can tell you of things that I saw and experienced while I was there would fill volumes. I met some really evil people. I met some really stupid people, but I also met some really good people too. The problem is I didn't have enough momentum. So I reached out to other things. I brought in gymnastics, I brought in dance, I brought in cheer, and I started networking and traveling all around the state, talking to people, getting that momentum going. So I would have a bigger body behind me, because here's the thing. The people that are in government, the one thing that speaks louder than anything is votes. If they can't have the votes, then they're not in office. So I had to get the votes, but it's just me. I needed momentum. I was told to my face many times, Mr. Dudley, you're not going to win this. So what did I do? I went on the attack even harder. Every time they told me that, I became more determined. That Kia, enough. And I pushed harder. Till finally, amendments to a law, the one that was going to shut us down, I forced a situation because I had enough momentum going with enough people behind me that was in their face. I wound up with the power to kill Senate Bill 68. Personally wrote amendments to Senate Bill 68, which was put into the Senate through the House, and Governor Perry signed it on June 19th of 2009 into law, which exempted all skills-based program from state regulation. I won. 60 miles per hour was not going to get it for me. I had to get there faster, harder. So even though I had to move those obstacles, the things that would slow me down, the point is that you can do great things way beyond what you think you can do. You can do it. And I can sit here today and tell you, because they asked me, I was asked this many times, Charles, why are you doing this? You've got all these people that won't stand up with you. But yet you're out there fighting for them. And I thought about that because I was so exhausted, right? Because I was 80 hours a week and then running the martial arts school on top of that. Till finally, it just hit me all of a sudden one day. I just said, I'm not doing it for them. I'm doing it for you guys. When you run up against your peer pressure, people telling you to do bad things, pushing you, how am I going to tell you to stand up against that negative peer pressure, which is just as powerful to you as the state coming and telling me that they're going to bankrupt me and throw me in jail? How can I tell you to be strong if I don't show you how to do it? I won't quit. I can't quit. Because I'll never fail you. That's what gave me the strength and the power to persevere and go through to the end. And I challenge each and every one of you guys to understand what it is that you're up against. Take stock. Don't freak out. Think through it. Be calm. Just like we teach you in the martial arts. See the obstacles in front of you. Get that momentum going. Move those things out of the way. And get there as quick as you can. That's my good.
And we're talking about momentum. Momentum is the great exaggerator. What does that mean, great exaggerator? It means you're not nearly as good as you look when you have positive momentum. It also means you're not nearly as bad as you look when you have negative momentum. What's the difference between a straight A student and a C student? Often, it's momentum. Momentum makes a big difference. It can make a C student look like an A student, right? How do you get momentum? How do you go from being a C student to an A student? How do you build that kind of momentum? Well, it's little things. It's victories, small victories, little victories, but it's intentional victories. These little victories will exaggerate how good you really are. So, how hard is it to sit down every night and write your spelling words 20 times? Well, when I say that, it doesn't sound like it's a very hard thing to do. Why don't we do it then? Here's the thing. We have got to make a decision to create change, to have that victory, in order to get that momentum. We have to say enough, right? Did we hear that word earlier? Oh, yes. It's enough making excuses. It's enough giving into the Xbox or your Nintendo Switch, it's enough. I'm going to do something different. I'm going to sit down and write my spelling words 20 times. Guys, seriously, if you actually did that every night, what's the likelihood of you failing a spelling test? Would you guys say close to 0? I'd say so. Absolutely. But here's the thing. What did you have to do to get 100 on that spelling test? You literally had to set aside 4, 5, 6 minutes. Like, guys, there are TV commercials that run longer than that, a series of commercials. You could be watching your TV program in the evening, and when the TV cuts to commercial, you could do the spelling words right then and probably get them done before your show comes back on. Are those commercials really that good? I got kids shaking their head. No, they're not that good. They're not that good. But you have to decide. You have to make a shift. You have to choose something else. And here's the thing. It's really, really hard to start. Because you have obstacles in your way. It's really hard. So here's the thing. Mom and dad can actually help. And this is where we get a little bit confused because the help doesn't always feel like help. The help sometimes feels like punishment, right? Now, this is what's interesting. When you take stock of that victory, when you actually value your victory, and you get into a habit of writing your words 20 times every night, even when mom and dad's not restricting the obstacles, it's actually a lot easier just to sit down and do your words because you create a habit. You get into a habit of doing it every day. And maybe sometimes you need a little reminder. You do it, oh no, I'll go and get it done right now. It's easier to deal with the obstacles once you have positive momentum going your way, right? So what do we have to do first? We have to decide we want to change. We have to say that's enough. And this is what's hilarious. Obstacles are so powerful that sometimes we can take an obstacle away and still can't get past it. Guys, how many times did you have to do something that literally takes 5 minutes to do, you spend 20 minutes doing it, 30 minutes doing it, an hour doing it? Okay, you guys don't need to raise your hand. I know. Everybody's raising their hand. It takes you forever because you're so busy thinking about, I wish I was playing video games. You literally could have taken 5 minutes, done it, been finished, and gone back to the video games. But do you let that obstacle get into your head? It gets in your way. So getting started is really, really hard. It's tough. But what I want you guys to remember, it gets easier. It does. I mean, it gets a lot easier. Those little obstacles that when we took it out of the way, it was still stuck in your head, it was just insurmountable, and it took you an hour to do 5 minutes worth of work, becomes nothing. Because now you have victory in that area, you have momentum in that area, and you just power over those obstacles like it was nothing. Breaking away from video games for 5 minutes is nothing. Do that no problem. Next thing you know, you guys are in high school, you have big tests, book reports to write, things that have to get done that requires sacrifice, requires time. And if you've never learned how to sacrifice 5 minutes of your evening just to write spelling words, what's going to happen to you when you have major assignments? That's going to require sacrificing video game play, sacrifice sleeping, sacrifice watching TV, sacrifice playing with your friends. It's really hard. But I can tell you, and everybody's been through this can tell you, it's a lot easier. You already know how to sacrifice 5 minutes. It's so much easier. Now, I can also tell you when I was a kid, I didn't understand this at all. Negative momentum is what happens when things are going the wrong way. When things are it's like that train. It wants to go forward, but it's rolling backwards. How are you going to move forward when you're moving backwards? It takes hundreds of horsepower to get from 0 to 60. But when you're going negative, how are you ever going to get to 60 miles an hour going forward? How much more work does it take? Guys, it takes time and energy. Time and energy. That's that energy, it's that horsepower. Accelerate. Time is how well we use that horsepower. We can do a short amount of time with more energy. But when we're going backwards every more time. So we're going to do an illustration today. We're going to step outside and we're going to give you guys an example of how an obstacle gets in our way and how we can blow past that obstacle. And when things are going bad for you and things are not going well and you're not getting good grades in school, it doesn't mean that you can't, it just means you're going to have to work harder. It's going to take a little bit more time. Because if you're not a C student trying to become an A student, you're a D or an F student, it's just going to be harder. It's just going to take more time. By saying it's enough. You guys want to see the object lesson today? Okay. Somebody very obnoxiously parked a Jeep out in the grass. Never to park on somebody's grass. It's so rude. Unless it's your Jeep. And it's my Jeep. So I get away with it. But we're going to use the Jeep today for our object lesson. So guys, let's wrap this up. Let's go outside and have some fun.
All right, guys, what we're going to do is we're going to line this up right to the sidewalk. This sidewalk is an obstacle. I'm going to start you guys on the obstacle. All you got to do is grab the straps and we're just going to pull it up and over the obstacle. Now, what we're going to do is I want you guys to factor how hard it is to get up over the obstacles. Real important. All right? And then we're going to do it a little bit different and see if it makes any change at all on how hard it is. You guys ready? Let me have all the kids. I want you guys to find a spot. Okay, now let me have parents. I want you guys come on in here, grab a spot. All right, guys. Ready? Hold it tight. Come on, guys. Pull. I don't have the brake on. Go. Pull. Come on, kids! When we had the obstacle right there in front of us, you guys had a lot of help too. Was that a little hard or really hard? Really hard. The obstacle's not that tall, but it made a massive difference. Guys, that's what it's like getting started sometimes. It's really, really hard. I'm going to give you guys a super easy obstacle to overcome. Are you guys listening? It's the weight of the Jeep. That's it. I'm not putting anything in front of the tires. I'm going to set you guys up for success. How does mom and dad set you up for success? They take away obstacles out of the way, things that are getting in your way, right? Does it always seem nice when they take things out of the way? What's something they might take out of the way? Your phone. Might take away your phone, yes. Could take away the Legos, yes. Take away the tablet. These things get in your way, and you have to fight against that. You want to get some momentum to victory. Go for it. Oh, one more try. Go! I tell you what, here's the trick. If they want to do it, what do they need? Go slow or go fast? Fast. Put some power behind it?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, let's just put some power behind it. Let's see what happens. Okay, guys, ready? Go! Guys, give him a hand. Nice job. Okay, now just for fun, because we're going to go inside. What if we have just Mr. Ivan do it by himself?
Yeah!
That'd be a flex, sir. That'd be a flex.
He's driving. Oh yeah, he's
Okay, Landon, come here, please. Right. Okay, Mr. Ivan by himself. Ready? Go, Ivan, go! Go, 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 go! Yeah! Woo! Good job, Ivan.
Thank you, sir. We learned about the big mo. We learned that there's two different kinds of momentum. There's positive and there's negative. As you saw with the G, it is super easy once you get it started. Even just a little push, you can almost do it by yourself. Now, but there was one time when he was pulling it backwards, when it went off the obstacle and it was going backwards, we couldn't do it. Even though we were able to do it when it was stopped, when you're going backwards, it's a lot harder to get it to get going.